Today, I wanted to share with you my journey, and we talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. And for those of you who are in your, let's say, later years, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. For those of you who are in your early stages, your students, I think this could be a life-changing experience for you. So please take heed of what I'm going to share with you. Irrespective whether you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or anything else for that matter, an entrepreneurial mindset will really help you to become a better doctor, a better lawyer, a better accountant. So please think about the entrepreneurial mindset beyond just becoming an entrepreneur to make money. By show of hands, by the way, how many people would like to be an entrepreneur here? Excellent. And the rest of you just want to be boring? Walt Disney, once upon a time, he said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I've had a lot of dreams. And by the grace of God, I'm able to live my dreams. But this wasn't always the case. If you look back, I will share with you my childhood. And the intention is not only to show off, although that helps, it's actually to draw out lessons that would be able to perhaps help you along your own journeys. Whether you become entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, whether you become corporate slaves, whether you become freelancers, all of these things will help. Along this journey, I also was once upon a time a corporate slave, engulfed in a monthly salary, which was the only thing I could think about. And then, by the grace of God, I had the opportunity to create a $1 billion company in Pakistan. Shahid, you'll be amazed to say that $1 billion in Pakistan, at the time when there were no dollars in Pakistan. So I'll share that story with you. But before I do that, I want to go a little bit back and forward in my life. The year is 2016, it's the summer, and I was tasked by the government of Pakistan to build Pakistan's first National Incubation Center. By show of hands, how many people have heard about the National Incubation Center? Wow, excellent. Now, as always, what I've learned is that before you do anything, do the research. And I took the opportunity to visit the US, Silicon Valley. I took the opportunity to visit Europe. But specifically, I looked at the cultural elements. And I looked at an organization called Nust University here in Islamabad, LUM Center for Entrepreneurship in Lahore, and the IBA Center for Entrepreneurship in Karachi. And while I was in Karachi, I had a rude awakening. When I was talking to Dr. Shahid Qureshi, who happens to be the head of IBA Center for Entrepreneurship at the time, we talked for an hour, and he said to me, Parvez, you are an accidental entrepreneur. And I found that very rude. A gentleman who doesn't even know me, all of a sudden came to the conclusion that I became an accidental entrepreneur when I'd been really planning and working so hard. And the second thing he shared with me was an introduction to a young lady at the time known as Dr. Saraswati. Dr. Saraswati is an Indian-American researcher who has researched entrepreneurs and what makes them successful over the last 30 years. Dr. Saraswati and her research team, after evaluating all of these, came up with what is known today as the effectuation theory. This effectuation theory, incidentally, is taught at US universities, and I also happen to be a student of the effectuation theory. And the effectuation theory dumbs it down very simply in terms of just 3 or 4 items to become a successful entrepreneur. To become a successful entrepreneur, you only need to know these 3 things: who you know, and what you have. And I will share with you on my journey how I managed to become a successful entrepreneur at different stages in my life by using these things. Remember, in 2016 is the first time I officially realized what this effectuation theory is, but I also realized that I've been practicing this all my life. Many, many years ago, as a student, by the way, I was born in Murray, and my parents took me as an immigrant in the early 60s to the UK, and we grew up there. And it was a very challenging time, as we're seeing UK riots nowadays. So to earn money, I was delivering newspapers at a very early age. Now, the beauty of delivering newspapers allowed me to make pocket money, so that pocket money I could use for my own, taking care of my own self. Interestingly enough, in this particular case, it uses the effectuation theory of who I know, and what I had. So delivering these newspapers, I knew the news agent, the man who owned the shop, and he wanted to sell more newspapers. So basically, he would give me these newspapers free of cost. I would deliver them to the local community because I was very familiar with the local neighborhood and the environment. And all I had was these two legs, although a lot younger at the time, and delivered newspapers to make money. So you can see who you know, what you have. Then realizing that maybe I need more money, I realized that I can run the tuck shop at school. So rather than me having to go to all of these different places and using all that energy, why not get people to come to me and give me money? And the beauty of this was that my father, God rest his soul, he was working at McVitie's, which is basically an organization that makes biscuits and chips and crisps and chocolates. And so I didn't even have to pay for them, but I was able to sell them at school, realizing another opportunity that you don't need to have money. It's again, who you know, what you have. Now, as you know, money is never enough. And the problem with school is that in the summer, it breaks down, as in it closes. So what do you do in the summer? In the summer, I had the opportunity to make even more pocket money. And that was by working in the summer for this particular gentleman. By show of hands, how many people recognize this gentleman in the photo? This gentleman is probably in the top 10, possibly the top 5 richest Pakistanis in the world. His name is Sir Parvez, and he owns an organization that employs more than 50,000 people. I also had the opportunity to observe him and learn from him how he became an entrepreneur. So again, who you know, what you have. In the late 80s, as a student, I had the opportunity to see a television ad. And this 30-second ad changed my entire life and put me on a completely different course. We talk about moments, not more than 30 seconds. And in this in this ad, there was a gentleman, I remember it vividly. He was driving a limousine, black limousine in New York City. It was raining, it was dark, and he was stuck in traffic. And what he does is he reaches out for the mobile phone, his car phone, and he dials a number. And on the other side, the next scene is a man playing golf in England on the golf course, and his phone rings. So he walks up to the bag, picks up his phone, and it says the name of the brand. And then I thought to myself, wow, imagine कि वो कितनी लंबी तार होगी, how long that wire must be that he's taking it around the golf course, because the concept of wireless did not exist. I fell in love with the mobile phone. And to this day, I can share with you that I still have a passion for mobile phones. I've made a lot of money. I've had the opportunity to support. And then what happened was I decided to get a job with a company called British Telecom because I was so fascinated. But what they did was they gave me a job in an office which had fixed wired phones, no wireless. And to me personally, I found that to be very boring and tedious. And therefore, I decided that this wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something else. And one of the things I realized while I was working there was that opportunities are everywhere. Many of you today will find this very difficult to believe, but once upon a time, I used to have to go to the barbers to have my hair cut as well. And on one particular occasion, while I was having my hair cut, there was another gentleman having his hair cut on the next seat. And he was talking to the barber about how he was doing such great business selling furniture to the housing associations that provided a service to homeless people in the UK. And as soon as he finished, because I went outside and I said to him, sir, I would love to do that same business as you. Can you please give me some advice? Can you give me some guidance? And obviously he said, you must be joking. Why would I create a competition for myself? But I had picked up enough information from him to go home, pick up the yellow pages, look for what they call housing associations, and then start calling them. And I called one, and he said, no, thank you. And I called two, and they said, no, thank you. And I went down the line. By the time I reached the 9th or the 10th housing association in the yellow pages, they said, I remember the guy's name is Pete. He says, I've actually recently joined. It's my 3rd day on the job. I am actually looking for vendors. Can you come to my office? And next day, I went to his office, and he asked me questions. Because I had previously some experience of providing furniture to my dad for renting out property, I shared with him that I can do this. And then again, he gave me that opportunity because even though I didn't have any of my own furniture, the supplier that I had lined up, I said to them that, would you allow me to bring my customer to your shop so that they can buy some furniture? And if you're in the sales business, you'll know that everybody wants to sell. And the answer was yes. So we created a business from absolutely nothing. In the early 90s, I had the opportunity to come back to Pakistan to set up companies, telecom companies, because I had an interest. And at that time, this is something for you young people, I realized that this is an affordable loss. Mentally, I had prepared myself in my early 20s that if I waste the next 2 years and I'm unsuccessful, I can go back to the UK and my dad will still support me. So therefore, I can afford to do this at this age. No liabilities, no major expenditure. So in life, it's important for you to take these risks now because you have this opportunity. And even if you're a student, that doesn't mean you only have to study. If you look abroad, most of the students who are studying abroad, they also work and they pay for their tuition fees and their expenses. So I helped to set up a company called Mobilink, and I happen to be one of the founders there. Again, being that passion, being that opportunity, being the opportunity that I love mobile phones. My passion drove me. There were many people better than me, but because I had the passion, nobody could match the. And the other thing I learned in life is to succeed, you have to fail. Failure is the prerequisite of success. But you don't have to fail at your own expense. You can try to fail at somebody else's expense. And why not? And the things that I learned at that job was not only the corporate startup or creation of brands, but also a very important task of team building, and also marketing, branding, sales, and distribution, which later on in life helped me to create my own business. One day when I went to the office, my supervisor, my boss, who happened to be the CEO, said to me, "Welcome, Mr. Abbasi, your services are no longer required." And this was because of a particular change, and I was devastated. I realized that everything that I had, which I thought was my own, जो गाड़ी मैं समझता था कि मेरी गाड़ी है, the car that I thought was my own was actually not mine, and they took it back. The laptop that I thought was mine wasn't mine, they took it back. Even the phone, can you believe that? So I realized that particular day that I had nothing of my own, and this is going to be the last day that I want to be in this situation. And I considered that to be the worst day of my life. Today, I consider it to be the best day of my life. So it's a perspective. Talk about biases. It's a perspective where you are looking from. So I decided that I wanted to be fired up to become an entrepreneur. And within this, because of my UK heritage, I knew in the UK there was a company called the Carphone Warehouse. And what they do is they have all the brands under one roof. You don't have to go to different places. In Pakistan, in those days, you had to go to different places to buy different products. And here we bought everything under one roof. We did the research. In Pakistan, there was no warranty at the time, poor customer services, limited variety, and it was basically not a very good environment. So we did the research, and using my laptop, I helped to build a company called Mobile Zone. For show of hands, how many people will recognize the name Mobile Zone? It also tells us about how old you are as well, by the way. And this company, by the way, we managed to sell 50 million handsets. And we expanded into Afghanistan, into Bangladesh, into the UAE. And in terms of dollar import terms, we were the second largest only after Pakistan State Oil, sir. So when I met the president at the time, he said that you are the reason for our deficit of payments. And some of you may remember this. Who you know, what you have. That's how I started the business. Using people who I knew. I had a relationship, what I knew in the telecom industry, and what I had. But in life, remember, change is the only constant. And in 2008, sir, you may recall, we went from 60 rupees to the dollar to 90 rupees to the dollar within 100 days. Yani ke 50%, 50% of our currency was devalued in 100 days. I lost a lot of money, and then we decided to move from an organization that had a 5% margin to a 95% margin. And somebody asked me this question, this is for Parvez Iftikhar, sir. What happened was I decided to do consulting rather than trading. And by consulting, I went to people's offices, telecom companies, banks, etc., provided them with advisory. They were kind enough to give me their office, their internet, their electricity. They were kind enough even to share lunch and teas. So there was no cost. So we moved from a 5% margin to a 95% profit margin. So that's how you diversify in business. Again, how did we do this? By going back to my friends in the telecom industry, in the banking industry, telling them that I can help them to improve themselves. Who you know, what you have. And then retired to the UK. In the UK, one of the other things I realized is that in life we regret the things we did not do, not the things that we did. If we did something, we failed, lost money, that's okay. But when you grow old, you will remember the things that you did not do. And don't have that regret. This is the advice that I would like to share with you. Again, when I was in the UK, I found it again boring and tedious, came back to Pakistan, and after retirement, decided to refire and help build the National Incubation Center here in Islamabad. I'm happy to share with you that today we have more than 8 National Incubation Centers across Pakistan. We've managed to create more than 120,000 jobs, more than 50 billion rupees in investments. And I'm happy to share with you that in Islamabad we have more than 24% female founders, which is an exceptionally good rate. How did we do this? Conceived the idea, went to my friends, asked them the same question. Who you know, what you have. I continue to do this and build businesses through the network that we have. Often we hear about this. I can share with you that your network is your net worth. So the more people you know, the more people you have in your network, go out there, meet people, talk to them, build them into your network, and then you'll be able to grow your net worth as well. Today, as our adventures, the studio that we are in a variety of different types of businesses. Servicing the diaspora Pakistani, 15 million of them across the world, all the way to Career Launchpad, helping students develop their future, as well as helping retired army and government officers to find their next adventures, be it a job or be it their own business or whatever they want to do. For those of you who are trying to be perfectionists, this is a very simple lesson. Forget about perfection. You will never achieve perfection. Progress is better than perfection. Don't try to be perfect. Whatever you have, go with whatever you have. Social entrepreneurship, this is something which I think we all need to understand is a way to give back. But also, you can do this as a young student. Do some voluntary work in your communities, in your hospitals, in your masjid, madaris, wherever it is. Do this work. It'll help you to develop yourself and your skills in terms of communications. And I would like to leave you with what you know, who you know. Ready? What you have. And remember this, that you will miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And the last question I have for you is, what are you waiting for? Thank you very much.